Welcome back to Winners and Losers. This is the show that looks at the highs and the lows around world football this weekend. It is the international break, but nevertheless, there's been some cracking football on display. Hamster joins me today. Hamster, what have you been up to this weekend?
I've been editing one-on-one, my friend, all weekend. Just been sat on my computer, but very much looking forward to getting that out on Euro Football Daily this afternoon. It's been a bit of a labour of love.
Is it a Nando special?
It is a Fernando Torres special, and why he deserves a little bit more respect.
Ooh, there we go. Right, let's crack on with the international winners and losers. We're going to start with our winners. Bit of a controversial one, but we're talking about England. No surprise.
Yeah, we are, and this will definitely split people in the suggestions, won't it? But England came from behind to secure a 2-1 victory over Belgium as the Three Lions met the Red Devils for the first time since the 2018 third-place playoffs at the World Cup. Mason Mount's deflected efforts midway through the second half off Toby Alderweireld's left boot was enough to move Southgate's men above Belgium in the UEFA Nations League group. Now, England have won 20 of their last 21 competitive fixtures, losing the other one, scoring 67 goals while only conceding 10 in the process. So, the top line numbers are actually very, very good. But people were a little bit more unconvinced, let's say, by the performance, particularly in this 90. England have averaged 2 goals at home now for the last 8 appearances, but it looked like that was going to be far from the case in this fixture after a pretty drab first half. The lack of creativity, very, very visible. So only one key pass in the opening 45, and the only shot on target for Gareth Southgate's men was the Rashford penalty, won by England captain Jordan Henderson after he was held by Dortmund right-back Thomas Meunier during a corner. And it's safe to say that Meunier thought it was soft.
Jordan Henderson asking Patrick for confirmation. I'm not sure Meunier was that convinced by it. This was just after the full-time whistle. Yeah, you know what he's getting at there, don't you, Ashley?
No, but Jordan's right. He had the arm on him. He felt it.
But regardless, Marcus Rashford, MBE, steps up, doesn't he? Wraps it away, donning his new boots, which included those lovely messages from the children that he helped with his campaigning during lockdown. That was his 4th goal in as many England games. The first United player to do so since Bobby Charlton, so quite the feat. But he wasn't the first player to score, was he? That was ex-teammate Romelu Lukaku. He opened proceedings with a penalty of his own after blitzing Eric Dyer, who'd already been given a pretty tough time by Carrasco, who was unfortunate to have that goal chalked for offside, an extremely late decision, probably a correct decision. Eric Dyer getting himself level with the rest of the back 5 just in time, right? And that was the first goal that England have conceded in exactly a year. So 6 clean sheets prior to that. So very hard to break down, yes, particularly in that 3. I thought Cody was excellent against Wales. If he carries on playing like this, he'll probably be a mainstay in the England setup, especially if Gareth does revert to that back 5 that he dropped after the World Cup. But back to the point on creativity, because a lot of fans actually wanted to see England in the losers this week for their extremely conservative lineup. And after that first 45, it looked like their arguments had a lot of merit, Joseph. What were your thoughts?
Oh, definitely merit to the complaints from England fans about dull, boring, predictable football. I wasn't happy, particularly after the first 45 minutes against Belgium, it has to be said, where we were tragically defensive. We were so scared of Belgium. We didn't want to come out and play. Romelu Lukaku was doing things to Eric Dyer that I don't want to have to see again. It was vile out there. Second half, much improved. Romelu Lukaku did not have a sniff. They sat Declan Rice in front of him. Dyer and Maguire kind of doubled up on him, and he just couldn't get on the ball, and that caused Belgium loads of problems. But overall, this England team is just so muddled. I think it's hard to find a more unbalanced 11 than was put out against that Belgian team, with Trippier at right back, Walker as one of the centre-backs, Trent Alexander-Arnold as a wing-back, which I actually don't really think suits him. I think it's better when he's a little bit deeper and can whip them balls in from deep, especially when you've got a player as physical in the air as Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. Didn't make much sense to me, and I think everything just seemed a little bit out of sorts. I don't understand the perseverance with the 5. I don't think it suits England's best assets, which are our front three. Because as soon as you go to the back five, you have to drop one of them. And inevitably lose the inclusion of Mason Mount, which I don't have a huge problem with, but I feel like he is a downgrade on Jack Grealish. So I would just like to see it simplified. I understand there was a problem with the left-back situation because of the amount of injuries, but nevertheless, we do have left-footed left-backs available to be selected, Gareth. They can play there. And I just think everybody needs to calm down about being so defensive. I see so many pundits saying, oh, we need to be this sort of solid base to allow those forward players to go and play. Well, how about being a little bit more imaginative, a little bit more creative, a little bit braver from the offset, not sat so deep and allowing Belgium to come onto us?
This is the best team in the world, right? So how much credit do you give them for pressing England's right-hand side and sort of allowing Trippier to have it on the left? Because he was inevitably going to come inside, slow up play. Alexander-Arnold didn't have a sniff, right? I think by full time, he'd only completed... or is it half-time, only completed 6 passes to Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I don't give Belgium too much credit. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think they were that good across the course of the 90 minutes. I thought they showed patches of real brilliance, and Kevin De Bruyne obviously continuously shows that amazing technique that he's got. There was one ball with the outside of his foot that was incredible. But I thought England were as poor as Belgium were good in that first 45. Then in the second 45, when we kind of got our act together, I didn't really think Belgium offered a great deal, and England missed some absolute sitters in there. So, look, at the end of the day, a draw probably would have been a fair result based on the first 45 to the second 45. But there's just so many simple changes that feel like they could be made to this England side that would get so much better out of the team as a unit. You know, go to the back four, allow us to play a 4-3-3, give Jack Grealish the freedom in that attacking midfield role. Trust that Declan Rice or Calvin Phillips and Jordan Henderson behind him can do the defensive output. Play Jadon Sancho. You know what I mean? It just feels like there's so many simple changes and tweaks. Like you said, Trent barely had a sniff. I think, like you said, 6 completed passes in the first 45 minutes. Because he's a wing-back, he's so high up the pitch. It's better when he's deeper and can deliver early crosses in, like he does for Liverpool, than playing him out of position on this wing-back overlapping role, and then Kyle Walker's having to do his defensive work. It's just muddled.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it?
It's muddled, it's a mess.
When you consider that Alexander-Arnold, like everything goes through him for Liverpool, and he only had 32 touches in this game, and only Mount had fewer in the whole England side. Something is amiss, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you're going to play this back five, why not play Cody? The most natural member of the back three. He's never played, really, in a back two, or at least not for the last 4 or 5 years. Of course, Wolves playing a back 3/5, and in this England side. Against the Welsh midweek, was one of our best players, captained them in the second half, scored his goal. You're thinking, okay, if we're going to play the back five, surely Connor Cody, probably the biggest leader in the dressing room and on the pitch, vocally at least, is going to play there. But no, he's dropped. Eric Dyer plays at the centre of the back three, which is a bit of a bizarre one. I just didn't understand it. Felt weird. The performance against Wales did have some positives. You know, Danny Ings scored a great goal. It was great to see some youngsters involved. Jack Grealish was the best player on the pitch. And then come the competitive game, it feels like it's all thrown out to try and get the more established names back in the team. And I didn't particularly like it. I thought we were too defensive. I thought Southgate got it wrong, but he did tweak it in the second half and probably just about did enough to get something out of the game. Nevertheless, there are still positives for England, aren't there? We're very hard to beat. I don't think Belgium had lost a game in 2 years before this. Like you said, we continuously win at home. We are now, believe it or not, the favourites to win the Euros, which when I read that yesterday, I was quite surprised about, I'm not going to lie. But nevertheless, another 2 wins for Gareth Southgate. What do you guys think about this England performance and Southgate? Is he too defensive? Is he too rigid? Let us know in the comments below.
Before we start our losers then, if you're not a member of Team FD, then smash that subscribe button right now and turn notifications on. Okay, rounding off the show, it's Coy's 292 suggestion of Frank de Boer / the Netherlands. And it's been a horrible few days for their new manager, hasn't it, Joseph?
Oh, what a surprise. I'm so surprised that Frank de Boer is struggling as Dutch team manager. No, absolutely not. It has been a horrible few days, like you said there. Of course, they lost 1-0 in a friendly to Mexico in his first ever game. And then even worse, really, a 0-0 draw against Bosnia. Now, this means, by the way, that Mexico loss basically means that Frank de Boer has lost the opening game in all of his last 4 jobs in management, of course. Inter, obviously, Palace, Atlanta, and Holland. Now, De Boer, of course, was taking charge of his first international game for Holland because Ronald Koeman had left his position. He had that Barcelona clause already installed in his contract with the Dutch national team, so it was very easy for Barcelona to come in and get him. De Boer, likewise, had left club Atlanta over in the MLS after 0 wins post-COVID in that sort of return of the MLS tournament that they put on. He didn't win a single game, so they kind of let him go there. If you remember, before Atlanta, I keep trying to say Atalanta, I don't know why, Atlanta, he was, of course, Crystal Palace manager and was one of the quickest sackings in Premier League history. I think the 3rd fastest in history. 4 games, 4 losses, 0 goals scored, sacked after 77 days. So right now, his pedigree is quite low. So no wonder Dutch fans are very sceptical about leading what is, don't want to say the golden generation, but quite a solid generation of footballer coming through. You know, Van Dijk, De Jong, Van de Beek, Memphis Depay, in what will be their first major tournament since the World Cup in 2014. Of course, didn't qualify for Euro 2016 or the World Cup in 2018. So no wonder fans aren't convinced, and it seems like players aren't really convinced either. Stefan de Vrij before the game said he was curious about De Boer's training methods, which isn't always a great sign. And there's going to be a lot to work on, judging by his opening 2 games, because they obviously didn't score in either of them. And that's the first time they've gone more than 2 games without a goal in 5 years, this Dutch national team. So he needs to pull his finger out quickly because the fans aren't happy, Hamill.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been a little bit of a renaissance for the Dutch national side, hasn't it? Put up some big victories under Koeman, so this definitely feels like regression. Let's start with that Mexico game then, where they put out quite a strong side. Statistically, it was quite even, 50% of the ball apiece. They had 7 shots each, put 3 on target each side as well. But the reality was that the Mexicans should have wrapped this up in much more convincing fashion, hence why XG was 1.8 to 0.2. That is paltry, isn't it? 7 shots each as well. That sounds like a dreadful game. Glad I only watched the highlights. Now, the Orange just consistently throughout the 90, shooting themselves in the foot with some horrific defending, made 4 individual errors that led to clear-cut chances in the game. Raul Jimenez took advantage of some of that defending, didn't he? Wrapping away that penalty after he was fouled by Ake. He's got 8 in his last 15 now for El Tri, so shout out Raul Jimenez. Definitely been one of the informed strikers of the last 12 months. Then the big game for De Boer, a Nations League game against Bosnia, who had lost against Northern Ireland midweek. So not exactly coming into this on the back of great form. And what we witnessed was a diabolical 0-0 draw. Yes, they dominated the game, 70% possession, 15 shots, only 4 of them on target, which does intimate that the quality of chance was pretty poor. But overall, just super negative. Stefan de Vrij and Virgil van Dijk both had over 100 touches. I think Martin de Roon did as well, and he plays in a much more defensive capacity for the national side. A little more box-to-box at club level. Striker Luc de Jong, who likes to get involved in build-up play, doesn't he, despite being a bit of a target man. 31 touches. Only Jasper Cillessen had less for those who started. So creativity proving to be a huge issue for them, or at least deploying a system which enables their best players to be creative. Because as we know, Memphis Depay in Ligue 1 is more than capable of creating over 3 chances per 90. After 65 minutes, they hadn't created a single one from open play. That's with Wijnaldum, De Jong, De Roon as the midfield 3. Which,
so boring.
Which, I mean, Gareth Southgate got criticised for Jordan Henderson and Declan Rice. Wow. Van Dijk ended up as a striker for the final 5 minutes as well, reminiscent of when Stephen Corker used to come on for Liverpool as a false number 9. So the less said about this game, the better, to be honest. Even though that was a semi-detailed breakdown, I want to move on. Should we quickly wrap up the show with some shout-outs / some favourite moments before we put in the international break behind us, Joseph?
Yeah, let's do that very quickly. I think this is the most obvious shout-out of the week. Has to go to Norway. doesn't it? And one man in particular, Erling Braut Haaland. I just run out of words to describe this guy. Get so annoyed that he doesn't play in a United shirt. Another hat-trick this week. This is his first on international senior duty, a 4-0 victory over Romania. Of course, he has scored hat-tricks before for Norway. In fact, he scored 9 in that under-21 game or under-18 game against, I think it was Honduras. Yeah. But this was his first senior hat-trick for the men's team. Now,
deadly,
56 goals in his last 56 games for club and country. There was a graph plotted the other day on Twitter of the most clinical finishes in world football, and it's so ridiculous, this graph. I'll put it on screen now because Haaland is he's not even visible on the screen, but yeah, he's got 7 goals this season for club and country in 4 games, so looks all right. And with Martin Ødegaard sat in behind him, just feeding him balls like he did for, I think it was his second goal, defence splitting pass, this Norway team might have a bit about them, Hamster.
Yeah, I think that they're producing a really great side at the moment. Particularly the left back, who I thought Celtic should have bought from Rosenborg. His name escapes me now. I was just having a little bit of a thought there. I think he's just joined Amiens for like 800k. So yeah, there's some really nice components in there as well. El Yunusi, shout out, man like Mo. He's been great for the national side recently as well. So yeah, I think probably underdogs for any major tournament they qualify for. That is the end of the show though, isn't it, Joe? So what else have we got to plug?
Yeah, why not go and watch Sunday Vibes if you haven't already? We chatted a little bit more about Jack Grealish over there and Everton's chances of getting to the top 4, and then one-on-one this afternoon, isn't it?
It certainly is. We're looking to get that out for about 6 o'clock, so keep your peepers peeled and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and goodbye.
Bye.